Welcome to the FamLee Life Podcast. I'm Justin. I'm joined, as always, by my lovely wife, Labrie.
Hey!
You know, I honestly wondered if I was going to mess that up or not.
Yeah, I was wondering how you were going to do that.
Yeah, it's already time for a change. After 7 episodes, this being the 8th, we just couldn't do it anymore. We're not niche people.
We're not. We try so hard. We really do, but we are not successful at narrowing down a niche.
No, it's just not our thing. I like how I say niche and you say niche.
Yeah.
Never noticed that before. No, it's just not our thing. We want to have a niche.
Niche. Yeah.
We want to have a niche in life and to be able to have a certain thing. I'm going to say it my way.
Yeah, you do you.
But it just doesn't work out that way. I don't know about how you are as much as I am, but I want to have that thing that's like, this is what I do. This is my thing. Everybody knows this is my thing. This is what I read about or do videos about or talk about or read. This is what I'm into. And that's just not us.
Well, I feel like for me it's a little bit easier because I'm a photographer. So that's my thing. My whole life doesn't revolve around photography. It's more of a side thing for me because I enjoy our weekends together.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people want photos on weekends. Saturday is our only full day together as a whole family.
Yeah.
So I'm just not going to consume our weekends with sessions. I'm just not.
But I just mean, I think a lot of people have their thing. There's people, we watch a lot of people on YouTube and things like that. And this person, I'm a mountain biker or I'm a this or I'm a that. And the internet tells you that if you're going to do a podcast, you're going to do a website, or you're going to do YouTube videos, that you have to have a niche because that's the only way that people are going to watch it. And maybe that's true. And maybe because we've kind of broken out of the idea of having a niche and it's just going to be more of a lifestyle podcast, maybe we won't get as many views. I mean,
lifestyle is a niche.
Not really, though. I'm talking because maybe one day I want to talk about cameras. Maybe one day I want to talk about hiking. Maybe another day I want to talk about biking, or maybe I want to go back to the farm stuff or books or just whatever's captivating our fancy at the moment. Maybe we'll talk about religion.
Yeah.
There's no talent. At this point, because we changed the podcast, we're not changing away from the farm. We're not getting rid of any animals.
No.
None of that stuff's changing.
It's not very time consuming. There's not a lot happening on the farm right now. It's winter.
Yeah, being winter means that we're not doing as much. We're feeding and watering and we're brushing rabbits, and that's about it. And it's just the idea of trying to think of new content all the time. It's so much right now. The previous episodes have been I had to come up with an idea and create a podcast more than just get to sit down and talk about what we're into or what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
But there's so much things that I am into and we are doing right now that I would like to talk about.
Yeah.
I sat down today and within a couple minutes, even if that, I came up with 6 bullet points of whole things that we could have a podcast about and just talk about these different things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would just be better for us not to have, a dialed in niche we're a farm podcast and all we want to talk about and do is farm stuff.
Farm.
Even though, now this doesn't sound like any amount of views, even though we already are up to 14 listens on Anchor, which is more than I would have assumed by now.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our podcasts have only reached one person, but several episodes have reached more than that. And then our most recent podcast, as the date of recording this, on YouTube, has already had 14 views on it, which is extremely surprising to me. And I think it was mainly because it just had more of a clickbait. How are we weird for doing this on the farm? Captivated people enough to click on it. Hopefully, we can come up with other podcast titles like that in the future that captivate people. But I don't even really even the podcasts that I listen to mainly, I wouldn't say are a niche podcast where they have a specific thing.
Yeah.
But as much as we've tried, the last 5 years of being married and, the longer than that we've been in a relationship, we've just never been able to be this is what we do. People used to look at us as the adventure people, and all of this stuff's now going to be linked. I don't know if we'll keep the farm account or not on Instagram, but that's obviously not the one that we're going to link to on this. Mm-hmm. We'll just go back, and we've done the FamLee Life before. We have a YouTube channel already.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make the channel that this stuff was coming out on YouTube be the FamLee Life Podcast channel, and so it's just all podcasts over there. And then the other channel, if we ever decide to use it again, will be different kinds of videos. But we've done that before. We've had a website where we talked about different adventures that we used to go on.
Yeah. We went through and chronicled adventures and just different things that we've done. And
try to inspire other people to get out and do things.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing in this. Like, just go out and live your life.
Yeah.
And that's what I decided with the podcast is I would rather just have a venue where I could sit down with you, talk about whatever thing is on our mind at that day, at that time in life, and just go from there and not have it be like, we can only talk about farm stuff.
Yeah. Well, it opens up a lot of stuff for me just because I'm able to express more like of my other interests now. Because yes, I love the farm and like the gardening side of that. And like, I love my chickens and I do love the bunnies. Like, I love all of our stuff, but it just opens up like more things because the farm has been mostly your thing. Like,
I've been the catalyst.
You've been the leader in that. So it just opens up because I wanted to talk about photography and family shoots and different things like that. We can do it.
Well, I've already got that on my list, but it's more of our differing philosophies on photography because they do differ.
Yes.
And we have completely different mindsets and different reasons for what we do. But that's okay.
Yeah. And the thing is we encourage each other in our different viewpoints because we see the value in them. So.
Well, I think that everybody needs to do their own thing. I think the thing that, and this is what catches me, and I think that hopefully by taking the niche out of this podcast and realizing that I'm not going to try to pigeonhole myself into one thing is going to help me in the long run because I'm not a one-speed person. I'm not a single-speed bicycle.
No.
Right? Like I have such a wide variety of things that I enjoy doing, and honestly, I cycle through them.
Yeah.
And I thought about this today, and I meant to text it to you. But you always say like, "Oh, it's so hard to buy for you for like Christmas or whatever," because I run through things so fast.
Yes.
But what it's not like it's not like a broken chain. Like it's like a chain on a bike. Literally, it's like a chain on a bicycle,
around,
and everything comes back around. And it doesn't matter. You could give me anything in that list of hobbies, whether it's fishing or kayaking, hiking.
I'm just a person a little discouraged with purchasing presents because the last time I purchased you presents, you didn't really use them.
When?
You
the last present was all the antique store stuff, so it's all over the house.
The painting and art thing that you jumped into. Immediately after I gave you those presents, you were done. Like, you didn't touch them, you didn't use them. It was very disheartening.
But it'll come back around.
Yeah, but it's not yet. So it deflates my balloon.
But what I was going to say was that if you gave me something for one that you've seen come around before, oftentimes the new thing will inspire that thing to come back to the forefront for at least a little while. So like if you got me a new thing for photography related, it's like, oh, well, let's go do camera stuff because I got this new camera thing. Or if it was like hiking related, oh, well, I want to go hiking more because I got this new hiking thing. And so it inspires me to get back into that. So it really wouldn't matter what you bought at that time. You just hit the bad streak where you bought something on the tail end of something.
Yeah, and
listen, I enjoyed
that was
painting.
A very short window.
It was a short window, and that was one that I had not really tried before at all. It's not that I don't enjoy it, but it's not like
it's not an easy thing to do in our current life.
Not just our current life. Like, well, first of all, the cat has to go up because he's going to get paint everywhere. But also, like, you have to pull out a bunch of stuff, and it takes, like, you have to dedicate, like, half a day, which we don't normally have half a day to dedicate to something like that. And I think that's what really, like, okay, we're not going to do that.
Which I might fall into and have my own little moment, like the painting, because Emily has inspired me. I want to try embroidery. And I'm trying very hard to not go get a little embroidery kit and like make something for someone as a present because it seems so fun and it's so pretty.
Yeah, I don't have any idea that it's not pretty. I just don't know if it would be fun or
it just
easy.
Seems fun watching her do it.
Yeah, you should just watch other people do it, and then it'll be a lot of fun.
But then I want to do it.
But then that'll just give us something else to talk about later.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we've got to be able to fill minutes. That's what we're here for.
Okay, so tomorrow.
No.
Go get
we don't
an
have that
embroidery
kind of time tomorrow. You got photography stuff to do. But I just want to say, like, this is also inspiration for other people. Like, if you want to make YouTube videos, like, yes, maybe the algorithm and maybe the consumer is more of a fan of it just being all this. Like if you're going to make some fishing videos, it needs to be all fishing videos. If you're going to make hiking videos, it needs to be all hiking videos. And that's grand. But
it's also really easy to burn out on.
It's easy to burn out on. And like
in doing it and watching it. Like,
well, that's the thing about people who are in a big niche is like, and it doesn't matter who you're watching, right? Like if they do car stuff, like we end up watching car videos. And when I was looking at one guy today and I'm like, all his channel is buying an old car somewhere, getting it running and taking it home. Now, obviously he can sell those cars, but in order to keep going and keep making videos, you have to keep acquiring more things constantly. Like I don't want to constantly be acquiring more things in the pursuit of getting interest. And I think like even farming, like if somebody on this is listening that still is into farming, like you watch these farm channels or these animal channels even, and it's like, we got a new pig or we got a new horse or we got a new chicken or we got a new this. And it's like, okay, cool. Did you get that because you needed content or because you actually wanted that animal? I think it's sometimes mixed, but at some point, like, there's certain homesteaders that you look at and you're like, do you really need more chickens or are you just doing this because you needed something to make a video about?
Yeah.
And I think that that's just how it is. Like, we don't really need more chickens.
Yeah.
As far as like egg laying chickens is concerned. Like, no, we're pretty well good on that.
Yep.
Unless you're using them to make money somehow. But
yeah.
The idea, like, I think a lot of stuff, it just keeps compounding on the internet of like, we've got to do more. And that's really not what I'm about. I don't really want to do like constantly more self type stuff.
Yeah.
Not really into that. But I don't know. I just, like, we tried the niche and I don't know, maybe we gave up too early. Maybe I could have sat down and really put work into podcasts and things like that and made cool things about farming and forced myself to focus on that. But at the same time, like, it's just not where my head's at.
Force yourself to, like,
yeah.
That I don't get is, forcing yourself to be closed in to just that when really as humans, we are incredibly complex. So why?
And we're all different. Some people really are built to do one thing. Like, this is what I do, and that's what I enjoy. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't do anything else, but their primary focus in life and their primary goal and what they do mainly is that one thing. And that's fine. Like, there are some people that they live with a camera in their hands. Like you said that your thing's photography. And that's true to an extent, but you're not that person who is always taking pictures every single day. I'm going somewhere with my camera, or I'm taking my camera literally everywhere we go. I
feel like the people, though, that are like that with photography are more into street photography. It's never like
that's true
family.
I'm just saying, though, like, but there's people that are like into those certain things.
Yeah,
and that's great. But I don't feel like that's what I am. I feel like I'm more of either, like, you could say, a river that's just following whatever path it hits and it bounces back and forth, or even a pinball machine.
Yeah,
I'm here, I'm there, I'm here, I'm there, I'm here, I'm there.
Yeah.
And I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow. Like right now, I would say the biggest thing that I'm like focused on is books.
Yeah.
And different books. And that's been great.
You've run through what, 2.5 books this week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I dive in deep.
Yeah.
To pretty much everything that I'm into. And yeah, so I've caught up on reading and read, a bunch of books recently, one of which I really want to talk about and have its own whole podcast topic. Or even the concept of like, could you do this? But I don't want to spoil that and give away what it's going to be about. But I definitely want to make that episode and be able to highlight a book that maybe a lot of people haven't heard of, because it's, at this point, it's almost 50 years old. And I'd never heard of it before, but I really enjoyed it. And it was a fast read for me. I mean, I read that book in like 2.5 days.
Yeah.
It was still almost 300 pages. I think it was 288 pages. But it was interesting enough that I crammed it. And the subject matter is something that I've always been interested in, but I don't think that I could do. But we'll get into that at a whole another time. I guess we've tiptoed around it. We should probably talk about like what subjects that means that the podcast will be about, starting with, I have to reclassify the podcast because right now it's considered farm and garden.
Oh, yeah.
And while, of course, farm and garden's not going anyways, we still hope to have an abundance of vegetables and flowers and things on the property. We still want to do everything that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Even in the future, if we have the resources we've talked about in previous episodes about how we'd like to have land and the photography farm and all these different animals and things. And honestly, that's no different. But I know even in that situation, I would still be doing other things and being captivated by other things that I want to talk about. but we need to change the category of it. And I looked at the categories today, and I know you said lifestyle might be a niche, but that's not a niche that Anchor or podcasting offers. But I figured the best thing that we could do, because it always comes back to this, and this is the one niche that I do have in life, even though I don't feel in this specific podcast to talk about it constantly and make it only about that subject, because even our walk in life is more than just this. You know, our life's encompass more, everybody's does. But I'm thinking we'll put it under Christian.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day,
we are Christians.
We are Christians. Our life does revolve around God, even though there are other things in that with Him.
Yeah.
But in everything that we do, we give thanks and we do our best to honor God. So I figured that's the best possible one to put in there. And then we can be a good example of the Christian faith to people who may not have faith but are interested in the other things that we're interested in.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're really meant to do, is to be good unto others and show people who Christ is through our actions. And we love God and we live for God and we talk about God. We've went deep on this podcast a couple times, even in regards to farming stuff. So I just figured that maybe that's one that we'll pick.
Okay.
We still have one other actual farm episode to come out, so I'm going to wait until after we publish that episode and have this episode ready to go up before we talk about, before we change the names of everything, and you'll have to make new images and stuff like that. But anyways, so we're going to change it to being a Christian categorized podcast, which means that, sometimes we'll talk about faith stuff. I mean, obviously that'll be something that's on the table is, we'll talk about our faith. We're apostolic, which a lot of people may not know what that means or what we believe, but that's the denomination, I guess you could say, that we are a part of, and we believe it strongly and are unswayed in our beliefs. Personally, I've studied a lot, looked into a lot, and find this to be the truth, right?
Yes.
The truth, the way. But so that'll definitely be something that's an aspect of this podcast, is talking about faith and maybe even diving into the issues of faith. Something we've not talked about in here before is that we do have a ministry website, which is our face in ministry of just talking. Like, I have been used to write articles by God through Bible study and things like that I've just felt led to write on certain subjects, and I've done so and posted them, and then in that some people have brought questions back to me, which could also be discussed on this podcast, because I'm sure it's questions that other people have. Yeah.
I mean, everyone in life, I feel like, no matter if you believe or if you don't believe, you're going to have questions regarding Christian beliefs. Like, it's just, that's how it is. Especially if you're not familiar with our particular denomination. It is a lot different in a lot of ways, but in other ways it's very much the same. And when you kind of break down what we believe versus what others believe, it typically lines up. We're just using different wording.
And when we have that episode, that's definitely, because there's another podcast that you listened to recently that was mind-blowing in the fact that they used our argument to argue the point that they believe in contrast to what we believe. So we would normally use what they said to disprove their belief and prove ours, but they tried to do the opposite.
Well,
it's very confusing. It's hard to get into it without
getting into it.
But so faith is definitely going to be one aspect of the podcast that we talk about. Real quick, I want to pause just because I want to apologize for the way that my voice sounds, because the more that we talk, I can tell the more that it's starting to sound weird. I've also had to cough a few times and take some pretty strange pauses already during this podcast. I apologize for that. I had a lot of sinus drainage earlier in the week. We're actually recording this 3 days later than we would normally record a podcast. Because of that, I just wasn't feeling great Monday night, and so I slept most of the night, or most of the afternoon.
The storm that's passed through our area this week has really just
so it hit me hard. And now the only thing it's really left, my nose is opened up, thank God, but my voice is all kinds of shot and my throat's a little sore. So I've got cough drops. I hate taking cough drops because I don't know what's in cough drops, and we have our own philosophy on food, which I really want to get into in another episode of the podcast. But all that's to say, I apologize for this video. Also, just remembered, the last podcast had a weird noise in the audio. I have no idea what happened. Our mics test fine now. They tested fine before. But then whenever I edited the podcast and listened to it, there was a weird noise in it. I'm not sure what happened. But my apologies. Hopefully it's not happening right now. anyways, so back to the thing we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a Christian-focused podcast because our lives are Christ-focused.
Yep.
And that's going to come up in every single episode, regardless of, what we're talking about. But I knew that we didn't fit into the other categories. You've already mentioned photography. Both of us are interested in photography. I would classify you as a photographer and me as somebody with a camera. I like to play, and it's one of those things that I go in and out of. One moment I'm into it, and I do fairly well.
Yeah.
But I just don't stick with it. And my issue in things is falling off. Like, oh, I'm having so much fun and doing this all the time, and then like you don't do it for a couple of days, and then a couple of days turns into like a couple months before you do it again. Doesn't mean I don't like it. Or
I'm not going to allow you to not pick up your camera. So you're going to take your camera with you this Saturday.
I already plan to.
And you're going to take pictures because we invested money and you're going to use it.
Yeah. But yeah, so photography is definitely going to be an aspect. And like you prefer people, I prefer landscapes and animals and things like that. Not that I don't enjoy people, but I'm definitely have no interest in taking pictures of other people's people.
Yeah.
I'd rather take pictures of my own people.
Yes. I love capturing moments for other families. I love capturing moments for my families, but I love making this accessible to other people and seeing the joy that it brings them and capturing sweet moments of them together. Yeah.
So photography is definitely going to be an aspect that we want to talk about, and I'll let you elaborate more on the things that you're interested in photography and things like that. We love the outdoors, everything outdoors, whether that's like, kayaking, fishing, boating. We've got both kayaks and a boat.
Yeah.
We like to go biking whenever like everything is just right.
Yes.
We've tried running in the past, and we can definitely get into that subject because more than anything, I've wanted to be a runner, and my body fails me every time.
Yes. And mine failed us well this last time as well.
But we definitely are into the outdoors and everything like that. So those subjects will definitely come up. We spend a lot of time hiking and driving through the mountains. And so I've got a lot of strong opinions on some of the best places to go in those regards. And I definitely want to share that. At the same time, like non-even activity wise, there's sometimes where just certain thoughts or subjects hit me that I want to talk about. I told Bree today, I said, if this was still a thing that was being considered or going through, I'd want to talk about it because personally, I don't like the idea of college debt relief. And to make a short sentence of that is you knew what you were signing up for. It's like a car loan. You knew what you were going to have to pay. You knew what it was, and you made a decision to do it. Is college too expensive? By far. But the way that we solve those problems isn't by taking away everybody's responsibility. It's by enforcing rules on the institutions.
Exactly.
That's my opinion, and I understand that people have different opinions, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing right now because that's just not what we're here for. We're talking about what we want to be as a podcast, but it might be just a conversation about whatever strikes us.
Yeah.
We have a wide variety of interests, maybe we'll talk about Christmas things or movies or whatever. Like it just depends on the time or like, I don't even know. I think that really what you could take from this is it could be anything.
It could be absolutely anything because you just never know what's going to hit us at the moment and whatever is going to be on our mind that week.
Or whatever we're doing. Maybe we go on a trip like when we went to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I wish we'd had this podcast, not for anybody else, but just for ourselves because, we've tried to make videos in the past and we could talk about that ad nauseum, but it's not that I don't know if I would say that we're not good at it, but it's like a ton of work. And then like you've got to have a decent laptop, not just speed wise, but hard drive wise, because there's so much data to move around, and then editing and filming and knowing what to say and what to capture and all these things is very difficult. But we are able to really, as you can tell, wax philosophy. We can talk a lot about a lot of things. And so it would have been great to be able to sit down and just talk about what our trip was like and the different things that we enjoyed doing while we were there and just recount that. So maybe one day we could listen back to our own podcast and hear the things that we enjoyed. I think that's a great purpose for our own podcast. So that way we don't even have to worry about anybody else listening to it. We'll just have a record of our own lives and things that we enjoy and talk about whatever it is that we like and not have to worry about it. One thing I want to mention is we talked about faith earlier. We do have some friends that are church planners, and I think that's a great opportunity is to invite somebody else in and be able to hear their story and their life and things like that, whether the channel has our name on it or not.
Yeah.
Getting other people's stories will be pretty interesting. So I think that there's a lot to look forward to. I'm pretty excited about what the podcast can hold because we're not restricted.
Yeah.
And like as funny as it sounds, like I was super excited, and this is just my personality. We came up with the idea. We talked about a podcast before, before the farm one, and this was kind of the concept that I had.
Yeah.
But then as we got more involved in the animals and things, I thought, well, we'll just do that, and that'll be our niche, and people will listen to us for farm things. And I'm like, but I'm just Justin. We're just the family. It's our thing. We're just who we are. We're not farmers. We're not hikers. We're not that. We're just us. And so I want to paint a word picture of us. And to do that is to take off the restrictions. Even though I dived head in and was like, this is going to be the best. As I got into it, I just felt restricted because I couldn't just sit down and talk about whatever I wanted to. And I had to throttle us because we want to talk about things that we were doing. And I'd be like, well, we can't, let's talk about it a little bit. But I don't want to get into that because that's not what the podcast is about. But now it is about that.
Yeah.
So we can just talk about whatever we want to and whatever's going on and just enjoy it that way. I mean, you could even talk about ASL and doing that interpretation and what a ministry it is at church and different things like that, or why you got into ASL, because that's a big part of your life.
Yeah.
And I could still ask you questions because even after 5 years, there's still things that I don't understand. So obviously we can't show sign language on a podcast. That doesn't really work. But you can at least discuss the idea of why you got into something that a lot of people don't. But I think there's a lot of things to look forward to, and it's pretty exciting to be able to be unrestricted because, that's
it just opens up a lot of doors for us because it does get just boring and humdrum when you're stuck.
Well, for us, that's the thing is that we're not a one-shot pony. We're not like, this is all that we want to do for the rest of our lives is do this one thing. And for people that are like that, honestly, I envy you.
Yeah.
I want to be that, and I've tried to make certain things that, and it just never works out. So I'm hoping that I can just be who we are, and be into these 1,000 different things, and hopefully spread such a wide net that people just want to listen to us talk and be goofy about certain things that we are, and we'll loosen up as this goes on, because obviously we're not, we still put on a little bit when we turn this on, whether we try to or not. That's just how people
happens.
are. Yeah. But the longer we go, the more free-flowing it's going to be, and it'll just be fun. I mean, honestly, I listened to the Wally Show podcast, which is a Christian radio show, and I stopped listening to the radio show part of their thing because they were so strict on their thing, but then they do the aftercast, and that's probably my favorite part of their show because they're just talking about random stuff. And, that interests me enough to be captivated. So I'm sure that there's other people out there that will be captivated in the same way about just a whole bunch of random.
Yeah. And that's a pretty big show.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The radio show for sure is. I don't know about the podcast. But I feel like that could be the tagline for our new podcast. The FamLee Life Podcast. Just a whole bunch of random. I think that's exactly what we could put underneath it, and that would encompass all that we want to be. Just because honestly, I know we've said it a million times already, but we really just bounce around constantly between this, that, and the other.
Yeah. And it falls within to what season is going on, just what happened that week, what we talked about in our normal day-to-day life.
And I think I really need to do something like this to where I'm not because I still, for 5 years, and Bree can attest to this, now I've always been deep into the Bible and reading and studying in church and things like that and writing, and I don't want to lose that. But I've always tried to have a hobby because you can't just be critically thinking constantly, right? And so I've always tried to find a hobby to be the thing that we do with our free time. This is our free time thing. But it's not worked because that's just not who we are. And hopefully I'll be able to accept that and stop trying to force things. And one Saturday we're doing this and one Saturday we're doing the next, instead of me trying to make these crazy plans to do this one thing forever. Just going wherever the tide takes us. It's just going to be a lot better option in life. And hopefully doing this will help us match that philosophy a little bit better and just live a more free life of just doing whatever we want to.
Yeah.
We're adults now. We don't have to do what other people tell us to do. We get to tell us what to do.
Exactly. Just like if I wanted to have cake for breakfast, I could, but I'm not.
That's the breakfast of champions.
That's what my mom always told me. My mom told me that.
What's in The Outsiders? And the guy comes out with cake for breakfast, and he's like, breakfast of champions. And that stuck with me.
Listen, my mom was a full believer in that when we would go into work together, because I started working with her when I was 14, at McDonald's, and she would literally wake me up with a slice of chocolate cake and a big sweet tea. And she said, let's go work.
Well, that'll get you going, right? At least for a little bit until the sugar comes crashing down. But not cake related, but I have heard that if you ate pizza for breakfast, that it's actually often a better breakfast for you throughout the day than cereal, because most cereal is full of sugar and carbs, and so you eat the sugary carbs and then you're tired before you can get to lunchtime. But if you ate pizza, you do get some carbs, which your body does need for energy, but you get protein in the cheese, and if it's got meat on it and things like that, and so and the fats and things will actually fuel your body better.
Yeah, sadly, we really like to make our pizzas on the smoker, so we probably won't be having pizzas for breakfast.
We have leftover pizza for breakfast. That doesn't have to be fresh pizza.
Leftover pizza is definitely possible.
Smoker pizza is awesome. That's a whole other podcast all in itself.
Just smoking stuff in general. That
game changer.
Oh my gosh. This week in the rain has been terrible for me because I use the smoker so much in our lives now. Like,
that's what I told everybody when we bought the smoker. I said, listen, why? They're like, so why do you want a smoker? Why do you want a pellet grill even? And I'm like, because it's an oven. A pellet grill is an oven that makes food taste even better. And so the best part of it is you literally turn it on, it does its own thing, and then anybody can use it. So it's not like using a charcoal grill or a conventional smoker where you have to start a fire and manage a fire. You literally push a button, select a temperature with a knob, like an oven, and then anyone can cook on it.
Yep.
Like anybody.
And he's not saying that I'm a bad cook or that I'm very hazardous.
No, but anybody, I would want to use a smoker. But the point was just like, this is so easy that even with Oliver and me not home to help you, and help you even if it's to manage Oliver, you can do this while I'm at work. We could have great food, and all you have to do is just set a piece of seasoned meat out there for a few hours, and you're done. Yeah, it gets perfect.
It's the best. We need the rain to go away so we can smoke things again.
Yeah, because it's definitely, we've not had any rain in so long, and now it's rained for the whole week, which is really rough because we've had no rain, we've smoked meat like almost every day.
Yeah.
It just makes life so much easier.
There's been so many things, and I literally struggled to think of a menu for this week because of the rain.
And we still smoked something in the rain, but I don't even remember what that was now.
Burgers.
Yeah.
I made burgers. You were craving burgers. And it was just a light drizzle for the most part for that day, and we're like, yeah, it's worth it.
Yep. And it was worth it. It was really good.
Oh, so yeah.
We haven't had burgers in forever.
Yeah, and we found some nice clean buns. It goes back to how we eat or whatever.
Yeah, they don't know that we're weird food people, so we'll just have to get into that at a later date.
But it was so good, and for leftovers, because we only had one bun left, I had a double cheeseburger.
So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing now. That's pretty much all the things that I have about us being in an open niche. The fact that we're just not niche or
niche
people. But I wanted to talk about Christmas because this podcast is going to come out December 16th. And that means that it's going to be basically the last podcast. We're going to have one right before Christmas. But it doesn't seem right to me to talk about Christmas movies and music and holiday type stuff
when it's almost over,
the day before Christmas Eve. So I figured we'd take a minute at the end of this podcast and maybe talk about just Christmas. My thoughts were best Christmas movies, and that automatically turned in my head because as I was writing this, I heard one of the worst Christmas songs to worst Christmas songs. I think I've got some pretty hot takes in that department, but we'll start with best Christmas movies because there's not many that aren't the best.
Yeah. In our child's humble opinion, thanks to you, the
Rankin Bass 1964 Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer
stop motion
toy Rudolph.
It's the best.
Oh yeah, he thinks it's the best. And what's funny is, so when I first was, it's on YouTube, but then on Amazon Prime I saw a thing that had Rudolph on it, so I clicked on it, but it was an animated Rudolph, and I was like, oh, not that one. I didn't want that one, and so I turned on the other one. Now, he'll say he wants that Rudolph until you turn it on. And he's like, no, I didn't want that Rudolph. He wants the other Rudolph. He's a little
It's the funniest thing. But yeah,
the kid loves it. Even if you try to turn on like Rankin Bass, Frosty the Snowman, that's animated. He's like, nah, I'm just not getting into this. But you put on stop motion Rudolph, and he's like, yeah, that's cool.
We'll go ahead and jump into his favorite Christmas song as well while we're here.
Oh gosh, he's got weird taste. That's about the end of as far as you can go with that kid.
He absolutely adores Jingle Bell Rock, but it can't be just anyone.
Well, it's because it's the one that Alexa plays.
Yes.
And Alexa chooses to play Blake Shelton's version.
Well, she did for a year, and then she up and decided this last week to start playing a different one.
Really? I didn't know that.
There's been an update, and like I have to specifically say, play Jingle Bell Rock by Blake Shelton, or it'll play a different one.
Of all the versions to play automatically, though, why it was playing Blake Shelton's version of that song in the first place, I don't understand.
It beats me, but he loves it. And like this kid literally has been singing Jingle Bell Rock since last Christmas.
Oh yeah, year round the kid sings Jingle Bell Rock. We've got a weird kid though. Like how many other kids are like, what song do you want to sing before bed? And he's like, I would like you to sing Amazing Grace, followed by I'll Fly Away. And I'm like, how old are you? Apparently he was born in 1960s because that's just where he's at. Except Blake Shelton wouldn't have been around then. I don't know. The kid's weird. But those are definitely his favorites. But
it just goes to show that he does follow us because let's talk about your taste in music.
Well, it goes old. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't deny that. But
he follows suit.
Yeah. But we're here for movies. So what would you say your favorite Christmas movie is? What's the best Christmas movie?
Oh, the best Christmas movie?
I think it's an easier question than that. I don't think there's that much hesitation.
Well, because I've not like really watched a bunch of Christmas movies besides Hallmark movies.
Well, yeah, I think Hallmark is it's one big movie.
That's one movie, like the same movie over and over again with different actors.
Yeah. I mean, they just basically do the same story.
Yeah. It's the same baseline.
It's kind of like watching like one of those murder investigation shows where like you know that 30 minutes in when they think they've caught the bad guy, they haven't because the show can't end yet.
Yeah.
So it's got to not be this guy and actually be the guy you didn't expect at all.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the Hallmark movie. They've got a formula and everyone's the same.
Well, I mean, if the formula works.
But what about Elf?
I was going to say, the first one that comes to mind, really, that's an actual Christmas movie is Elf. I mean,
Elf's a great movie.
I've been hesitant to jump into the Grinch because I did try to watch that with Oliver and it just went into that line where he's like, hate. And I'm like, oh, I don't really want him running around saying that.
Now you wonder why the kids are like they are nowadays, and then that's what you're watching as a movie, right?
Yeah.
But Elf is a great movie. I'm not sure it's an Oliver movie as a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, like, you have like a weird memory block about movies and you don't remember things that are like, whoops.
Yeah.
I don't think that movie has too much crazy stuff in it, but my favorite part is he's in New York City and there's a guy in a red tracksuit and a red toboggan with a white beard and he runs up to him like, Santa! And it's hilarious in the movie. And then later I found out that wasn't an actor. That was a random guy in New York City that he ran up to and did that to on the spot, which just makes it so much funnier. Like, why people that look like that go around looking like Santa cracks me up.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a pudgy, older white man with a white beard, don't wear red. Unless you want that to happen.
Exactly.
It's just funny. But I think that's a great movie.
Yeah.
We do like Noelle.
Yes.
But that's a Disney thing.
Yeah.
And it's mostly on Disney streaming. I don't think you can get that on DVD. And we can get into this in another episode. I have some strong opinions about Disney as of late.
Yep. So
I decided that as a family, we weren't going to support Disney anymore. And you stood behind me on that decision because you agreed.
Yeah.
From what we were seeing and hearing, that was not what we wanted to put our money into.
Yeah.
And that's a decision that everybody has to make for themselves. But that is a great movie. If you've not seen it, I don't recommend streaming it on Disney because then they get money or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and Disney owns a lot of things. So, like, it's really hard.
I don't even want to buy a GoPro anymore.
Whatever. Like.
Because they own everything. But they own GoPro, and I'm like, I don't want to buy a GoPro. Somebody who wants to make videos and record things, I'm like.
But listen, GoPro has not done us right in the past.
GoPro, we've had issues with GoPro.
We've had issues with GoPro.
Everybody's
we like issues. What's that other one that we got now?
Oh, gosh. The Insta 360 thing.
Is it Insta?
Insta361 or something like that.
Yeah. So we got that. We like that. I don't know who that's owned by or whatever, but everyone's got their hands in pockets or whatever. Like Disney's in everything. So we're choosing not to support Disney directly.
Well, we do our best. Like we try to not watch channels that are Disney and things like that but Noel's a good movie. It's very funny and very well done for the time. This year, and of course there's things on HBO that I don't agree with, but I didn't pay for it. But somebody showed me A Christmas Story Christmas, and A Christmas Story plays constantly on TBS, and it's an okay movie, but it kind of gets annoying, I think, because they play it so much. But the new one was actually really good. Like, I would have said it was better than the first one. Mm-hmm. Another movie that we both like is Four Christmases.
Yeah.
But that's the TV version. Mm-hmm. When they're playing it on like TNT or whatever, and it doesn't. I'm sure that there's bad stuff in that movie if you buy it on DVD and watch it that way. Mm-hmm. We've mostly watched it on TV, where a lot of that stuff's edited out. Mm-hmm. So don't take our recommendation for the DVD version. But as far as on TV is concerned, that's a pretty funny movie. Yeah. And like, I can't imagine like having to go to Four Christmases in the first place. But just the whole antics that follow that movie are pretty funny.
Well, I mean, technically, we have Four Christmases as our family, because we have us, we have your parents, we have my mom and Memo, and then we have my dad.
That is true.
So, I mean, we do have Four Christmases, but we split it up.
Also, our family's not crazy, but we're not going to talk about that. We're talking about movies. We're not crazy like that movie's crazy. But I think one of the best movies, and I didn't watch it until like a couple years ago with you, was Miracle on 34th Street. I'd heard about the movie forever. Yeah. I know a lot of people have issues watching stuff in black and white. That doesn't really bother me. But the whole premise was just amazing. Like, I didn't realize what the whole thing was. And I think that if businesses tried to run like that today, where you helped people find what they needed regardless of if you had it or not, would make a great impact on your business, because customer service is everything. But that movie's great. Mm-hmm. And that's a classic. Like, that's definitely a great classic Christmas movie. Yeah. I do like the same Rudolph that Oliver likes. Yeah. I wouldn't deny that. I mean, that's why I had him watch it this year with me. Yeah. The Grinch is fun, but it also, like, I don't like the Jim Carrey Grinch. Yeah. That might be a hot take, too, but I'm just not a big fan. Yeah. And I really love everything Christmas. It's because I never thought anything about Christmas movies. I'm like, man, I feel like there's not that many Christmas. The Santa Claus movies. Yeah. All those are good. I'm mad about the newest one, though, so it just makes it not as much fun. I thought we were going to have a fun segment around here before I got into bashing Christmas songs, but, you know, I'll just talk about happy Christmas songs, because there's a bunch of those that I don't have a rude remark about. Mm-hmm. Basically, every classic song sung by anybody, Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra, all those people, Johnny Mathis, great Christmas albums. Love all the songs on there. Sleigh Ride, Deck the Halls, Silent Night, like all that stuff. Awesome. The religious Christmas songs are great. Christmas Shoes, I think that's a great Christmas song. A lot of people don't like that song, though.
It's not the song. It's
a sad song, but it's a sweet song.
It's the tears. Oh, being a mom has hit me hard. I cry at all the things. I drive down the road just thinking about all the stuff that we get to do as a family, and I just want to cry. It's just happy.
I'd listen to Christmas music all the time, though. All I Want for Christmas, that's a good song. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you know, Dasher and Dancer, Come to Blitzen.
Well, duh.
But do you recall the most famous reindeer, which is interesting of a line, like, you know these other reindeer that aren't the most famous one, but do you recall the most famous one? Yeah. I never really thought about that until just now. It's like, well, I
pointed that out to you.
Well, maybe, you know I don't listen.
I know.
I don't even listen to what I'm saying most of the time, so I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't listen to what you said, too. But no, I think Christmas music's a lot of fun. And like, we do the fireplace thing, where you make the TV a fireplace and listen to that stuff.
Yeah. What I've really enjoyed is when we've turned the TV onto the fireplace, and then we pull out the record player and like pop on all the records of the Christmas songs. Like, I really enjoyed the Dolly Parton Christmas album that we got. Yeah. That's been fun. I played that during my Christmas mini session, and everyone got a good little laugh out of that and enjoyed it, just because it's a little unexpected. Mm-hmm. But
my favorite Christmas album nobody else has ever heard of. So, but it's the Imperials Christmas album. They're like they're really huge span of time. Yeah. Of a Christian like boy band almost. But they, from the back in the day, so they weren't really a boy band, but they had a ton of songs that I think were really good, and they have a cool 70s vibe. But then they had a whole Christmas album that was pretty good. So I enjoyed that.
Do we have that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're just waiting on the new needles to come in.
Yeah, that's the issue with a record player or toddler. But
life happens. Toddlers break stuff.
Last Christmas by Wham! It's fun.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart.
You can't sing too much, we'll get copyright strikes. Which we already get constantly because of the free music that I use, and it says it's a copyright strike, and it says that they allow you to use that music, which I don't understand. But
yeah.
That's neither here nor there. I think there's tons of great Christmas music. Yeah. Sadly, my mind is escaping me right now because it's getting late and my voice is starting to get tired. But
yeah, the only Christmas songs that are in my head currently are the ones that I have to prepare for this weekend. Mm-hmm. So I'm no help in this.
But I do have some strong opinions.
Yes.
About the worst Christmas songs. Number 1, worst Christmas song, Mary Did You Know? A song that by like so many people have these grand religious moments with that I truly am not a fan of. The question has a very simple answer. I mean, the Bible just tells you. Yeah. She knew. Yes, she knew. We don't have to ask. Mary knew.
Yeah.
She was told her. Told her all the story, everything that was going to happen. She knew about it.
It was very clear. It was written out.
So Mary did know. I'm glad that if you like that song, I'm glad. Enjoy it. Sing it.
I'm sorry if we ruined it for you.
Yeah, I apologize if I ruined it for you, but it was ruined for me a long time ago. Just by thinking through it, I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. It's a good song. It sounds nice, but it doesn't make any sense because she did know. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a surprise. You know, like now it would have been way crazier if Mary had just like woke up pregnant and was like, wait a minute. But thankfully, God was like, hey, just want to let you know, he had consent. You know, she knew what was coming. My one that got me and caused me to even write down this whole subject was the 12 Days of Christmas. Fun song, right? Like, but then at the end of the day, you're like, they keep saying the same things over and over and over and over again. I just can't take it.
Yeah. It's like one of those 7-Eleven church songs. Mm-hmm. You just get stuck repeating the same line over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it's boring.
Yeah. And it was like annoying the way that it's sang. And when it's like a group of people, like the whole caroler type thing, I'm like, oh, I just can't take this. And then I'm just going to finish it off with basically anything by Trans-Siberian Orchestra or Mannheim Steamroller. Hot take.
Rude.
I'm just done. I like words like happy. They're like, I don't even know. Like, I don't know.
I enjoy it.
It's good, but I don't like, and it is Christmas, but I would rather like have something that you could sing along to and be happy.
I guess, but I mean, it just
Sleigh bells ring. Are you listening, Labrie? Like that's so much more fun.
It fits like different times though.
It fits like scenes. Like if you were somewhere and like it was a grand like light display, or even like people ice skating. I don't know, like I don't know, something like that, like a show, something.
But not to be sitting down and
but not like to come on Pandora when you're driving down the road. Like no, it's not like. You know, I want something that's like the family's in the car just happy bouncing down the road, not like do 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 do. It's more Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Yes.
And man, where are these two names from? Like I kind of get Trans-Siberian Orchestra, but first of all, you're not even a real orchestra, and secondly,
but your other taste in music, you go from banjos to rock, like how
not. But they all have words.
Not translate in?
But they all have words, and they're fun.
I guess the words thing is what catches me.
We can agree to disagree, yes. But I just feel like Christmas music should be fun and upbeat and have words and be singable and be a lot of fun to do.
Yeah.
But you know, like I just think that we can have differences on that. But those are my worst Christmas songs. I don't know if you have a worst Christmas song or not, but that's really where I'm at.
Not off the top of my head, just again because I'm stuck on the 8 songs that I have to interpret this weekend. Yeah. So just have been absorbing those, learning those, and focusing on that.
It makes sense.
Personally, it's so cute to hear kids sing, and like it's gonna be amazing when one day Oliver gets up there and he sings along, and it's gonna be wonderful.
But you know what you can't sing along to?
But
Mannheim Steamroller.
but I'm not looking forward to interpreting their songs. That's just not my preferred.
No, I get that. I can't argue there.
It's harder to understand kids anyways. They don't enunciate.
Yeah, can you just sign mumbles, like kind of, or skip one? No, I just want them to get the full experience of what it's actually like.
So
Well, it's very high pitched and shrill, especially when it's not your own kids. And I'm not trying to be mean, but it's just like sometimes it's like, wow.
It's harder to understand other people's kids. Like for some reason, like you get honed in on yours.
When you put a bunch of them together, it just is not pleasurable to listen to. Like you listen to your kid, like that's fine, but you put a bunch of kids together, and you're like, wow, this is a lot. But no, so yeah, fun things are coming ahead on the podcast. We're going to be able to talk freely about whatever we want to, which is what we were already doing really anyways, but we don't have to bring up farm things in every episode and try to center around farm topics. We can just talk about our life and what we enjoy and what we like, and hopefully that's something that other people are going to enjoy and like.
Yeah.
And if they don't, we're just getting the time to be able to vent and talk, and hopefully we could find a way to do this where kids aren't screaming in the background.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. It'll come along eventually.
Hopefully one day he'll just learn what it means to like, hey, you just be quiet for a little while. It's been a battle this whole episode. You guys only knew the amount of times that we had to stop while recording this. The goal was just to not be as tired tonight and maybe be a little bit better, like lively during the podcast. But that came with its own challenges of a 3-year-old wanting attention the whole time, which is mind-blowing because we put on his favorite show, and yet still he would come in here.
He doesn't get shows a lot. Like, he doesn't. So for him to be able to sit down and have a show.
Well, but if we were out there, he wouldn't even pay any attention to us. But it's only because we're not out there. He wants to be with us. And now he's banging again. So I thank you guys for listening to the podcast. I do have a verse to close us out. It's Isaiah 9:6-7, because if we're talking about Christmas at the end of this podcast, we can't help but have a Christmas verse. I know what you're thinking. It's Isaiah. How is that about Christmas? It's the beautiful thing about prophecy. Verse number 6, For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it, and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. It's important to remember that the reason that we're here for this is because a child was born thousands of years ago. He lived a life, he became a man, and then he took upon our sins so that we could have eternal life and not have to live in the same wicked cycle that we've all once lived in before. I'm thankful for that, and I think that that's something that we need to strive to focus on this time of year, because that's the whole purpose of the holiday. It's a holiday to celebrate the birth of Christ, perfection entering our world, God stepping down from his throne to humble himself. That talks about great is the mystery of godliness, because he was seen of angels, but he humbled himself and became a man. Like, this is a big deal, and I hate that sometimes we get so caught up in presents and gift giving and different music and movies that we kind of miss the idea of humbling ourselves before God. Yeah. And realizing how thankful we are to have a day to celebrate the day that, salvation, really in its purest form, entered into our world. So this Christmas season, have fun, do things with family, be generous and giving to one another. And that's the thing about presents, is it's not about giving the best gifts or things like that, but giving, being generous. That's what presents started as, and sometimes we lose sight of that. And so just, as we get into the deeper part of the Christmas season and we all prepare for that special day, which this year's on a Sunday, first time for us in our marriage, which will be really cool. We're going to go to church that morning before we do anything else, which is awesome. And I just hope that everybody has a great Christmas. Obviously, we have one more episode left, but it just makes me want to say, as we go through the rest of this month, I think Christmas is a season, not just a day. Yeah. And we should be thankful all the time, but especially this time of year when it's the easiest time to evangelize, because everybody's thinking about Christ, whether they try to or not, because of this season. And so
you can't say Christmas without him.
Yeah, I just think it's important to think about what this holiday is really about. Even though, the world's latched onto it and tried to tear it down the best they can, we can still build it up and shine our light through even the darkest seasons.
Amen. I agree.
Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Hopefully I'll feel better next week and not have as annoying of a voice. We just wish you guys a great week, a great day, and God bless.
God bless.